without getting fat. So these were just two areas, material sciences and genomics. Let's talk about a little bit about robotics and artificial intelligence. We all know about machine intelligence and about drones. Somebody sitting in the United States can have the ability to press a button and a missile comes in and goes through in North Waziristan through a particular house, through a particular window, and the drone wars are very much here. Wars today and tomorrow are being fought and will be fought not by men but by machines. And this is a reality. So robotics, machine intelligence, cybernetics is a huge area. And those countries which are investing in this will have military strength as well as industrial strength. A building was built 2 years ago in China with flying quadcopters. These are helicopters, small helicopters about this size with 4 propellers on top which can carry bricks. And hundreds of these acting together in unison could make this building in days which would have otherwise taken months. And that's how buildings will be constructed. And already pizzas are being ordered through these, and you'll be able to get all sorts of things by just ordering. You order a pizza and a little small flying machine will come to your house within 5 minutes and you can have your hot, warm pizza. So this is the world of discovery. And our friends in the United States have developed all sorts of very interesting devices. This is the work which is funded by DARPA, by CIA, and by the US intelligence agencies. Little insects, which look like, which are insects. They are half insects, living insects, but they are robotic insects. They are cyborg beetles. And they are fitted with sound systems, fitted with cameras, and you can control them remotely. So the American embassy, about 10 miles away, can control these little insects, a fly or a beetle, to sit on the wall of your prime minister or president and transfer all the conversation, so-called secret conversation, to the US embassy. And we all know about the experience of the German chancellor with the US spying on the Friends. So the German chancellor should be made aware of all these developments as well. So she should not only look at the telephone systems but also the little insects that are crawling around her. This is another one, and that's another one, the cyborg beetles. And they can be both living or they can be dead insect-like materials which can be taken around and remotely controlled. So अगली दफा मक्खी आके बैठे तो जरा एहतियात बरतिएगा. And here's this gentleman, Yves Roissy, the flying Swissman. He flies across, he has this little engine tied at the back. He's flying over Mount Fuji, and here he is flying in front of an aeroplane, and he's crossed the English Channel, and he's done all sorts of fantastic things. And so the days are again quite close when you and you want to take your children to school. All of them have little engines tied behind their backs, and you fly together as a family to the school, drop them and fly back. So away with all the traffic problems, just fly across. So those days are also around the horizon. And this is something which is really perhaps the most exciting area of development, the human brain. This is arguably the most complex object of our universe. 100 billion neurons, each talking to 7,000 or 10,000 other neurons through synaptic connections. So you have 100 billion times 10,000 connections. So when you think, when you talk, when you store memory, when you recall, it's really an amazing piece of chemistry that is happening. And understanding and unraveling that chemistry is a huge new frontier, the whole area of neuroscience. Once you unravel it, then we'll have a greater understanding of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other brain diseases, as well as how to make our brain function better. So, very interesting devices have been developed. When you're thinking, your brain is emitting basically 4 types of thought signals. So when I raise my hand like this, the signal that comes out is different from the other stray thoughts that I have. And a small computer can be trained to recognize these command signals and to then pass these commands on to machines. So there are now wheelchairs available for paralyzed people who can't even move their fingers, who can move their wheelchairs by thought control. And a car was driven around Germany a couple of years ago purely by thought control. And Honda in Japan has developed a cap, thinking there's nothing, all you do is wear a cap which has sensors, and this senses the encephalographic signals and the changes in blood pressure, and recognizes the command signals through these changes. And this is, you might again want to look this up, the mind reading hat that Honda has developed and commercialized. You just wear this hat, it's a skull cap, and this is fitted with these sensitive electrodes, and this information is then transmitted to a robot. So you don't need any surgical implants or anything, it's just nothing intrusive. And these are commercially available. This I took from the Daily Telegraph of a couple of months ago. Blind seeing with the tongue. And the heading is, electronic lollipop allows blind people to see with their tongues. In fact, it was reported in the Daily Telegraph recently, I've talked about it even last year, of this development, that this was commercially available. These are devices that have been developed so that completely blind people can wear a little camera on their glasses which takes in the optical signals, and these are converted into electrical signals which are then transmitted through a lollipop-like device in the mouth which has sensors to the brain, through the nervous system to the brain. So you actually see with your brain. You don't see with your eyes. Eyes are only a mechanism for transfer of an image. The real seeing is being done with the brain. And if you can have other mechanisms to transfer this image, they can work well too. And so this device has been developed. And now you don't need lollipops. You also have armbands. So you can have the camera transferring the information to an armband which you wear, and then through the nervous system of your arms to your brain, the same signals can be seen. And these are commercially available. They are marketed by a company called WICAB, WICAB in Wisconsin, and they have already been used for instance, soldiers whose eyes were damaged in Afghanistan or Iraq for restoring partial eyesight. And some of the work that we are doing, Naveed is not suffering from epilepsy. This is just a necklace to show how some plants can be used for treating epilepsy. So one of the areas of brain science in which we have been involved is to look at anti-epileptic drugs using this patch clamp technique, where you can trigger neurons to undergo repetitive firing when weak currents are applied. And this can measure very weak currents which are generated through the flow of sodium and potassium and calcium ions. And these have been used to isolate certain compounds, isoxylatones, alpha and beta, which have been internationally patented in our laboratories. And these are they're going under clinical trials in Canada. And one of the areas that I had proposed some years ago, the molecular basis of memory, that thoughts are not abstract, but when thoughts are actually basically the ability of certain molecules to store information. And we had proposed that glycoproteins present in the hypothalamus, they may be fundamentally responsible for thought storage, and it is through hydrogen bonding of the hydroxyl groups that you can freeze the conformational mobility of these sugars, and hence information storage may just be largely initially, at least in the initial phases, involve hydrogen bonding. There could be phosphorylation also involved in more permanent memory storage. And we had proposed some patterns which might be formed. This was about 10 or 12 years ago, and the first evidence towards this came through a paper published in the Canadian Journal, where similar patterns were discovered, and a review has come out just recently last month on this theory of hydrogen bonding, which I and Zareen have written together, my former student, in the Neuroscientist. So this is again a future of how does the brain work? What is the mechanism of memory storage and memory recall? That's something that it's a huge puzzle which I hope some of you would like to work on and unravel, the molecular basis of memory. Let me turn to another area, that of energy. We already have solar cells which have above 40% efficiency. Sharp is already manufacturing these. Normally solar cells have 15 or 18% efficiency. And there are new types of solar cells which have been now developed. These use both heat and light to convert them into electricity, to convert the energy into electricity, not just the light. Normal solar cells just use light. These are the so-called PETE, photon enhanced thermionic emissions, which have above 50% efficiency, and these are already commercially available. This is a huge area of research, getting hydrogen from water. Can we break hydrogen-oxygen bonds and get hydrogen out which can be burnt? वो हमारी पानी वाली गाड़ी नहीं जो आ रहा था यहाँ के हमने ये इजाद कर लिया है वो कर लिया है. This is real science. So platinum is used, but it is expensive. So scientists at Berkeley have developed cobalt-based devices, and more recently ferric oxide has also been used. It's a question of increasing the yields. And this is a very important and exciting area. Can we just get energy from water? It is again chemically possible. And so this is something that some of you may like to work upon in the future. This is a picture of the ITER, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, which is located in the south of France, where they are doing this exciting fusion experiment, deuterium-tritium fusion, the two isotopes of hydrogen. And they are getting very near the point where the amount of energy that you put in is now very close to the amount of energy that you get out. Once you cross this point, that you get out more energy than you put in, then you will basically have a continuous energy through fusion reactions. So we will know in a few years if this works. They've already spent about $10 billion in this project, and probably will have to spend another $5 or $10 billion more. So this is something that is happening right now. Energy from cellulose is an abundant raw material. So we now have cellulose being converted into butanol and isobutanol, which can be used 100% in car engines, and this has been done through a microbe, Clostridium celluliticum, and so that is another source of energy. And aeroplanes can now fly without internal fuel. They initially you need fuel to take them to a certain height, and once they reach that height, these are called the scramjets, and if you take them to 12 times the speed of sound, they can use oxygen present in the stratosphere and use that as fuel. So these are already, and then they can fly basically indefinitely. They are commercially available. In Pakistan, I don't want to spend too much time, we just 5 or 7 minutes. We have tried to bring Pakistan towards this information age, through this age of discovery. And what we did was, during the time, the 2 years 2000 to 2008, we focused on young people, young scientists. We said universities are not about beautiful buildings, they're about beautiful minds. Bright young people, raring to go, full of creativity, full of energy, full of enthusiasm. That is the future of Pakistan. So we invested over $1 billion in giving some 11,000 scholarships to the brightest young people, sent large numbers across the world to top universities, and attracted them back not by legal bonds but by creating an enabling environment. अपने मुल्क कौन नहीं वापस आना चाहता, सब आना चाहते हैं. हमें खाली माहौल यहाँ ऐसा करना है कि उनके लिए मुनासिब मौके पैदा हों. We should have the right opportunities here. So what do we need? Salaries. We changed the salary structure and brought a tenure track system in with excellent salaries. A full professor's salary became several times the salary of a federal minister. Research funding. Every student could apply for a project and he could win up to $100,000 and he could apply a year before he or she was planning to return. We created a position that immediately on their arrival they would have jobs, so they don't have this frustrating time कि university selection board कर रही है और पता नहीं हमें job है या नहीं. The day that they landed, they would be an assistant professor with a salary of the relevant grade, but they will be called HEC scholars for 1 year, and HEC will pay all the funds. And after that year, that money will be built into the university budget, so the university has no additional financial burden. So provision of jobs, access to literature. So every student today has, in every university, has access to 25,000 international journals and 65,000 textbooks from all over the world, free of charge. The HEC pays for it. Access to instrumentation. So what do you need? You need a good salary, you need research funding, you need books and journals and libraries. You need instrumentation. Now that was more difficult. So here we came forward with a novel idea, and I believe we were the first in the world to come forward with the idea of open access instrumentation. You've heard of open access journals. Pakistan became the first to have open access instrumentation, which means that you send your samples to anywhere in the country, your analysis will be done quickly, free of charge, and however the institution providing the analysis will be paid for that analysis by the government, by the Higher Education Commission. So it was a win-win situation to use the existing equipment optimally and to provide. So the excuse that I can't do this because I don't have that evaporated in just a single decision. It was and that has one of the contributing factors which has led to a significant rise in increase in publications and clustering. So with these, we increased the university enrollment, went up from 135,000 to 1.3 million. The number of universities increased. Within 6 years, we saw the landscape of higher education change dramatically in Pakistan. By 2008, we had several universities ranked in the top 300, 400 or 500 of the world. We had had none before. Unfortunately, in the last 5 years, we have slid back because of the neglect of higher education. We now have only one, which is NUST at 480 or something, which is left. The others have all slid out of this ranking. So, you can go up or you can go down. So we went up very quickly. But unfortunately, the last 6 years we have gone down. I hope this changes now again. The PhD output, we produced more PhDs, about 6,000 by 2013 in the last 10 years than in the previous 55 years. But numbers without quality are disastrous. So we insisted that every thesis had to go to 2 or 3 international experts. You had to have an international publication, and every thesis was checked for plagiarism by Authenticate or other software. The research publications shot up from 600 or 700 a year. In last year we had about 9,500, which overtook India in terms of research publications per million population. There are a number of excellent reviews which were written by the World Bank, USAID and the British Council, and Nature wrote 4 editorials about the remarkable changes which are happening in Pakistan. And a number of awards were given, and Professor Michael Rode, the chairman of the United Nations Commission on Science, Technology and Development, wrote that there's no other developing country which has made such spectacular progress as Pakistan had made. India became worried at what was going on. And there was a presentation made to the Indian Prime Minister on 22nd of July, which was published on 23rd of July, that Pakistan may soon join China in giving serious threat to India. Well, most of you know our institute, those who are here, the facilities that we have. One thing that I would like NAIS specially to carefully look at is this new initiative which Professor Iqbal and I are involved in, which is an integrated version of massive open online courses. These are courses available from school level, college level, university level. They are free. All the MIT open courses, the Stanford courses, the college level courses, the school level courses from Khan Academy, they are online, and these have all been integrated on one platform. And these were launched by the President of Pakistan about 7 or 8 months ago, or about a year ago. And these are available. There's no registration required. There's no payment required. These are available at this website given at the bottom line, lej4learning.com.pk. lej number 4 learning.com.pk. तो आप खुद सीख सकते हैं, आपको कहीं जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप अगर आप में तड़प हो पढ़ने की और इल्म हासिल करने की, तो the knowledge lies before you. These are full-fledged complete courses, 20-hour course, 30-hour course. And lastly, biosaline agriculture, that's something we are working on. I've already talked about it. So I will end by just saying that our potential lies in our young scientists, our young students, and we have to create that enabling environment so you can grow and with your ideas change the world and make contributions to this thrilling world of discovery. Thank you. So I'll be happy to try and answer any questions. अगर कोई सवाल है किसी को तो I'll be. How many minutes do you, Raza, do you want the question and answer session to be? Sorry? 4 minutes. So 4 minutes for question and answer sessions. कोई है सवाल? Just raise your hand. Don't be shy. I don't bite. That's the other thing. Always laugh. Too many serious people walking around. हमेशा हंसते रहे. मेहनत खूब करें लेकिन हंसते रहे. जी.
Origin of chirality, speaking about that. What is that? What is the why is it specifically?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. That the origin of chirality on our planet. How did chiral material, the first chiral amino acids, for instance, why are we made from one set of amino acids and not from the other sets of amino acids? So, basis of chirality kya hai? So, there has to be a process of chiral induction, which should have caused it. An area. Either an environment in which a chiral environment in which the first molecules, the methane, ammonia, carbon dioxide, जब join हो रहे थे, so why was it that they joined in one particular fashion and not in the mirror image fashion? That is a huge challenge still to understand what happened. There are theories. Mason has come out with a theory of how it is, but they don't really thoroughly explain this basis of chirality. So this is again a huge area for you to investigate what led to the origin of chirality on our planet. Because जो possibility left-handed में होती है वही तकरीबन right-handed में. तकरीबन मैं कह रहा हूँ कि there is a minor difference between the two. That is based on the Mason's theory, but it is not enough to explain the evolution of only one species and not the other at all. So that's another huge area of scientific interest and research that you may want to go into. जी वीना. जी जी सीधा हाथ बढ़ता है. हाँ, that's a very interesting question. Why are you normally right-handed as compared to left-handed? And you see, there is, in my opinion, a genetic basis for this also. The ability, the tendency to do that. जब कछुए के अंडे निकलते हैं समंदर के किनारे पे, so they all run towards the sea, not in the opposite direction. They can run in any direction, but you have a certain, so the behavior of animals to behave in a certain way, even very young animals immediately after hatching, is typical for those animals. So there is a genetic factor built in the way we behave, and this could be for genetic reasons also. The tendency to behave in a certain way has genetic origins. The genetic origins also relate to criminal tendencies. Even so, those criminals, those persons who have been criminals, they have certain genes, so the tendency to become a criminal is greater in those persons who have those genes than those who don't. So so this applies to poets and to scientists also, I'm sure. The tendency. Ji. Anybody else? If none, then thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a fascinating lecture. I would now like to say thanks to NAE's executive members and NAE's officials for joining us for today's lecture via the video conferencing. And special thanks are due to Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Chaudhry and Dr. Raza Shah for providing us with all the facilities. Participants are invited for refreshments at Multi-Purpose Hall. Thank you.
दोबारा कनेक्ट